I'm saying something like a star being placed on somebody's forehead. And not too long from now, the clubs from this region, your name, they'll start singing it. Please help them. The clubs. Many years ago, we heard of men like Beckham, Van Nistelrooy, but they didn't stand for the kingdom. You will shine even brighter from these same clubs, but you will be known as a man, a servant of Jesus. I see that star come upon someone. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and you were robbed. Please be patient with me. I'm rounding up. You know, the glory is like dew. It rests. It takes time. It rests. So just open your heart. Let it rest on you. People are being given keys. And what it means is that the glory of God descend like the stars of heaven. We call forth for a new move of the Spirit. Those. And it carries men. It carries men. The door of revival opens. Men will gather again, but not just for football, but to celebrate the King, the monarch, the excellency of the Christ. The horn of the apostolic will emerge from this land. A brutal takeover, an emancipation campaign in light is about to break forth, and sons and daughters of light will rise up with new garments, garments of righteousness, burning like the furnace. While you are sleeping, you have encounters. While you are trading, you have encounters. Something will start falling on men, and a quorum will be formed in the spirit. A new government is about to be born that is ancient and everlasting. The government of the Christ in its purest form. That which was lost from this land eons ago is being restored. The labors of the fathers, of the patriarchs, the labors of the patriarchs, like George Jeffrey, ancient men that stirred the rivers of revival, their labors will be awoken again. It will be like it was in the days of John Knox, where men walked through the borders of England, of Scotland, and the powers of the monarch submitted to them. Even the rod of the miraculous, that the like of Smith Wigglesworth, they wielded over this city, over this nation, and to the nations of the world. Those ancient things you studied about and read of, they will come again. The Wesleys of the new era, they will be born. The Jeffreys will be born. And men will come here to catch this fire and to take it to Europe, to Italy, to Belgium, to Germany, and a fire will erupt. You can't go out if your friends are only men. You are weak. You can't have friends, brothers, and they are all men. Men are too weak an ally. They can become great liabilities. In addition to the men God give you, have partners in the spirit. That when you scream, Elijah will come. That when you scream, an angel will appear. That's why the business will not close down. You can build a bank for 30 years. When the bank is about to shine, the government comes and sees it. Unless you also have people on the other side who can touch the heart of the king, you will have a problem. And so the reason men will shine is because they press into God until they began to interact with beings in heaven. The Bible spoke about widows. It said widows received their dead back to life. They came somewhere that they had power over the dead. They came somewhere that they had authority over the dead. The problem we have is that we have forgotten how the fathers did it. The fathers were not naked. The fathers were not ordinary people. They pressed into God until they came somewhere. They were enthroned in the spirit. And when they talk from their thrones. Because we don't have thrones, that's why we compete with ourselves. When you find somebody doing it in a certain way, you too want to do it that way. It's not how it is done alone that makes it work. It's who is doing it with you. There is a place that you have been invited to. There are beings waiting for you. There are realms you should access. Don't be trapped in this world. Don't be carried away by the skyscrapers in Manchester. There's a realm more beautiful than what you see here. There's a place more spectacular than what you see here. When God began to allow me access to the spirit, mundane things stopped moving me. The other time I flew to Dubai, I was in my hotel until I finished. I left straight to the airport. They said, come and do sightseeing. I said, I'm busy. If I want to come for sightseeing, I'll bring my wife. I came for business. There's no time for sightseeing. Because when I enter my room, sometimes an angel of light just walks into you. And you see something you can never forget. You see something you can never become familiar with. If they come to you 1,000 times, it will be like the first time. And anything they tell you. There was a time I was sick. I was afraid. My liver, my lungs, my kidney, every organ was about to fail. I was choking and gasping for air. While I laid on the bed talking to the Lord, a being sat on my bed. The glory he came with, all the hairs on my body stood. I was in shock, and he just said, because I live, you shall see tomorrow. The moment he said it, a being stood up and left me. From that day, I don't fall sick. I can keep the most strenuous routine. I can keep the most strenuous itinerary. Come back the next day, I rise up like a stone. Because a creature of eternity whispered to me, because I live, you shall see tomorrow. And so we are not afraid. Even in the storm, we are standing. Where men fear to go to, where angels fear to go to, we enter there, and we enter with boldness. The first time I went to Pakistan, which is actually once anyway, they told me there was crisis because the prime minister was just removed. And the prime minister was going about creating all kinds of chaos in the nation. But that was when the door opened. I stood up and I entered there. They say you can't do crusade now. I said the best way to die is to die in mission. It means you are a gallant soldier. That's how you enter the crown of life. And we had 5 crusades with thousands of people saved. When we finished, we left, nothing happened. Because he said, because I live, you shall live also. That business you are doing, you need to hear something. Sometimes as you are pressing, then Joseph walks to you and tell you, this is how I took over Egypt. You will have a blueprint that is not found in Oxford. Sometimes you are in government. As you are pressing, then Nehemiah will come to you and tell you what to do to take the heart of the king. They can seize everybody's property, not you. Because you have heard from a man who was able to get a king to rebuild Jerusalem. And so anything you do, you have the allegiance of the king. Men will come to you and say, how are you doing it? Even you, if you are honest, you will know it's beyond you. There's an immortal economy around you. This is how men begin to shine. Shining is a mystical reality, but there's a protocol. And the protocol is interaction. Who have you seen? What have you heard? Who has spoken to you? This is what the patriarchs do. Moses wanted to touch Egypt. He didn't have understanding. He thought because he was in the palace and he had 1 or 2 privileges, he could touch Egypt. See, that's the problem many Christians have. Because you now have a job. You are a head of department. You now come and say, we want to change something. They will say, because you are head of department, you are head of pediatric unit. So because you are head of pediatric unit, you come with rules. They will, that's when they will look at you closely. I said, where are you from? The next day they will say there's something wrong with your residency. They have to withdraw your visa. The land will vomit you. Moses came and killed an Egyptian, buried him. The moment he tried it, the anger of Pharaoh rose. Moses knew he had to run for his life because he wanted to take action before beholding. And if you do that, the city, the vengeance, the venom, the powers that hold the foundation and the pillars of the civilization will come against you. You will discover you are naked. And Moses had to run to Horeb, the mountain of God. It was in Horeb that he beheld him. The Bible said he walked into Horeb in Exodus 3 verse 1, the mountain of God, and he came to a bush burning that was not consumed. Because when you behold him, you will see things that your civilization is not ancient enough to understand. Because even though Egypt was ancient, there's no technology in Egypt that will cause a bush to burn and not be consumed. So God will show you that the powers here is superior to the natural powers. And he said, I will turn to behold this sight. Immediately he heard Moses, take off your sandals. Where you are standing is holy ground. He had to begin to obey a new protocol. He had to be brought under a new law, under a new government. It was from there that the monarch of Zion told him, go back to Pharaoh, where you ran from. Moses' question was, how can I go back to where I ran from? Even the elders of Israel will kill me. No matter what I say, they won't believe. How can I go back? And then God began to show him transformation. He said, drop your staff. And the staff became a serpent. And he told him, pick it by the tail. See, this is why you need to meet God for yourself. Because if you make the mistake of saying, me too, I am Moses' partner. If you pick the staff from the head, it will bite you. We all must behold for ourselves. He said, pick it by the tail. He picked it, it became a staff. Put your hand in between yourself. He put his hand, he brought it out, it was leprous. Put it back, it became normal. The water you have, pour it on the ground, it became blood. He said, go. When they ask you, tell them, I am that I am have sent you. It also means, I will be what I will be have sent you. What it means is, anything you call him, that's what he is. What it means is, he's ever present. Anytime you call him, he's there. So because of this, there's now an insurance, an impregnable fortress built around you. On the strength of that, you can go to Egypt. And Moses came to Egypt with a staff. He didn't need to come with a government. He didn't need to come with an economic system. He came with a staff. That one is a weapon from the presence. And with a staff, he brought down Egypt. No civilization is too old if you will come from the womb of light. No civilization is too old if you meet him that is called the Ancient of Days. No civilization is too old if you meet the one that authored creation. The reason it looks as if you are about to be edged out in that job is because you have not seen him. When you see him, you will know that the heart of the king is in his hands. He can turn it. He can turn it in any direction. Your boss is not as powerful. You're only coming with suit. That's why he looks powerful. Come from light. When you come from light, even Pharaoh, you can threaten him. Because the point came, Moses told Pharaoh, he said, you will not see me again. Who talks to a king like that? It's supposed to be a privilege to see a king. But when you have seen the King of Kings, every king on earth is a boy. You will not see me again. And that night, Pharaoh did not sleep. He said, go and tell Moses, let him go with his people. When they were going, he thought he made a mistake. Maybe this guy manipulated. This is not manipulation. This is power. This is power. Power that can be demonstrated any day, anytime. And Pharaoh took his army and started pursuing them. When they came to the Red Sea, Moses said, Lord, deliver us. He said, why do you cry to me? Go forward. And he said, as Moses stretched his rod, he said, with a blast of his nostrils, he parted the Red Sea. And he said, Israel walked on dry ground. When the Egyptians tried to do it, they were drowned. United Kingdom is an ancient civilization. For you to touch the foundation, creatures of eternity must talk to you. They must visit you. They must interact with you. And this is not a prerogative of prophets. It's for everyone who is a child of God. He said, because you have come to Mount Zion, the city of the living God, to an innumerable company of angels. See, there is something you will touch. You will have favor that you can't explain. Things are not working. Then Esther whispers to you and say, this is what you do to work favor. You can work favor that you can break protocols. You can work favor that kings can bow and lower their standard because of you. It is who you have touched. They come with graces. They come with dimensions. They could be spirit of judgment made perfect. There could be angelic functionaries. There could be visitations of the Spirit of God or Christ himself. But by all means, make sure you have those encounters. We don't rule the world by chance. When you see a man doing something that the world pays attention to, it's beyond where he's living. There are many people who will leave Africa and come to the UK today. They will become princes. It's not about the location. It's about what you carry. It's about what you carry. If you don't carry anything, if you like, relocate to the palace, you will still be a nobody. But if God rubs that thing on you, if you start having those encounters, you don't need to be in the palace. Even the king can look for you, because immortal beings have committed to you immortal realities. A conference like this is a summon. It's a summon that you don't grow old and discover you made no impact. But the door is open. The slate is plain. You can decide what is written on it. You begin from inspiration. You journey through discipline. You come into hunger, and you stay hungry until participation is permitted. Participation. There is a wisdom that you need to have in order to alter the direction of a nation. Daniel had that wisdom. A point came, the Bible said that the king sent for him, and this was what they said about Daniel. He had the ability to explain hard sentences. He said the spirit of the Holy Ghost dwell in him. He said light dwells with this man, and an excellent wisdom. There is a dimension of the Daniel order. If you have that kind of encounter, that wisdom can walk through your life. There is a wisdom Joseph had that made him become the savior of the economic structure of a nation. If you have that Joseph's encounter, that wisdom can come on you, and you can become a force in the economic structure in this nation. Nobody is small. Men just reveal the dimension of their encounters. If you have those encounters, your stature can change. The impact you have on the government, on the nation can change. It's not even about where you came from. This is not I came from Nigeria, I came from Uganda, I came from Rwanda, I came from Kenya. That's not the factor. The factor is what are the encounters you've had. If you have the right encounter, is it not somebody that came from Pakistan who is your prime minister today? What are the encounters you've had? It's not about where you came from in the natural. It's about where you have been in the spirit. When you even consider his age, you are humbled. Church is not religion. It's a place of awakening the glory, so that everyone can walk in that order. And when you begin to participate, then you are sent. You are sent into the economy. You are sent into the media. You are sent into the academia. And you come with resources. Resources of wisdom. Resources of power. Resources of creativity. Resources of excellence. That's how we take over. You don't go into the world to go to God. You go to God to go into the world. He said he's called some to be with him, so that he might send them. If you have not been sent, it means you have not yet gone there, because everyone who has participated have been sent somewhere. There are some apostles who teach from the altar, but there are other apostles who takes over the economy. There are other apostles who take over the academia. And every one of us in the New Testament, we are to be sent into our world. Jesus said, go into all the worlds and disciple all nations. But you don't go without a witness. You don't go without an empowerment. That's why I said, tarry until you are endued with power. Tarry until you are endued with power. When you are endued, then you can take over your world. How beautiful it will be when suddenly the nation begins to be reshaped, and you find somebody with black skin making the policy. Not because he is black skinned, but because he has touched something that is superior to skin color. So a man can become a national solution if he keeps beholding God and is being changed into God. Because in God is wisdom. In God is power. In God is favor. In God is life. Everything you need for a successful life is in God. But it will take seeking to access those things. And the beautiful thing about beholding him is you are not just accessing those things, you are becoming those things. Because it's transformation before possession. The moment you are transformed, you already have it. And when you go to a place, you will discover that accuracy and perfection becomes natural to you. You can deploy the things you studied. You can deploy the things you gained by experience. But over and above that, there is a God element on your inside that suffices you beyond the things you have studied and the things you've picked by experience. When there is a need for an answer, even if it is not within the corridors of men, you can produce it. When the king told them to go and tell his dream, the wise men spoke. They say it's not given to men to tell these things. This kind of thing, men don't have such powers. Daniel said, give us time. Because we have beyond what men have. Even if it is not within the reach of men, in God we can find it. And he said it was revealed to him in the vision of the night. I prophesy to somebody here today. Every area of your life where you are lacking and losing the advantage, you are restored to it now. And so when we behold him, we are changed. The first way to radiate, the first way to emit God, the first way to emit excellence, the first way to emit wisdom, unfathomable, the first way to emit power is by beholding him. Look at the economic system. The pounds have remained the strongest currency in the world for aeons. You were born to meet it so. When you leave, it remains so. Do you know the powers that keep that in place? If it shifts, in a matter of weeks, the prime minister can go for the pound to be restored. Because of how ancient this government is. Look at the security system. A small nation in an island colonized almost half of the world. What intelligence is at work? How did they know that they needed to go from one border to another and enslave the people and cause them to bow to their own king? Do you not know that these people understand the ways of kingdom? They have perfected it, and it's not something they do spontaneously. They've documented it in books. They form policies out of it, shape the world. Many nations today speak their language as their own language. In fact, you even take pride that you speak it well. Hello, how you doing? I just got some groceries and I'm doing. Yeah, I just got BA from the university. I'm doing well. And you feel so good. That is to tell you how ancient the wisdom that rules this territory is. Even naturally, there are many things that find their origin from here. Time begins here. Time. The reference of time in the natural begins here. And you come to this kind of ancient civilization, you think the little wisdom you gleaned from a book can affect this land. You need to meet a spirit that is more ancient than this government. A spirit. And that spirit is the one who sat when the Bible said the earth was void, darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the spirit didn't need to walk, he didn't need to be anxious. He said light be, light appeared. That's the spirit that has the power to turn the system upside down so that its dominion can be restored. There's no study of philosophy or physics that can affect this civilization. It's older than physics. It's older than your great grandfathers, and it doesn't have regard for the nation you came from. It colonized a large part of the earth. The only power that can shape things here is the power that dwells in light. And many persons don't behold him. That's why instead of being transformed into the nature of God, they are transformed into the system, and they become godless, they become weak. Many persons can't even pray for 5 minutes. If you don't pray, how do you now connect to heaven? How do you talk to your God? How do you breathe in a city that is so choked with all forms of idolatry? Some worship football in this kind of city that there's so much energy. He said, we all with unveiled faces, beholding us in the glass, the image of the Lord, we are changed. The glory that is locked in your spirit will not manifest until you behold. And so every believer, every Christian who is sustaining any hope to overtake, overrun, or to bring the impact of God's government to this land must first of all behold him and be changed. Somebody told me, inspire an idiot, he will become an inspired idiot. Inspiration is good, but it's not enough. The moment inspiration hits you and a new frequency begins to stream into you, the next thing to do is to add discipline. Because that inspiration brings energy to your soul. Most of you who came for this conference from last night or the night before, something probably has hit your soul. You've told yourself, as I go back now, I will start praying. I will begin a fast. You told yourself, I will start reading wide. I will become vast. I want to be knowledgeable. You told yourself, I will make money, and money enough to be able to advance God's agenda. That's an inspiration. After you receive that inspiration, you will need discipline to back it up. Because wishful thinking changes nothing. The energy you draw from that inspiration, you have to utilize it, and utilize it quickly. This is where many people get it wrong. Paul saw Jesus appeared in his glory. In Acts chapter 9 verse 4 to 6, Jesus himself commissioned Paul. Paul was not commissioned by another man. It was Jesus that told him, rise up, go into the city. You will be told what to do. He didn't see Jesus in the flesh. He saw him in the glory. But that was not enough. In 1 Corinthians 9 verse 25 and verse 27, Paul told us the place of discipline. He said, him that striveth for the mastery is disciplined, is temperate in all things. And in verse 27, he said, I beat my body, I bring it under subjection, so that I will not lead others to God, and myself is a castaway. So a man can be well inspired but disqualified at the end, because it will take discipline to get there. Many persons, they catch an inspiration. The first 1 week, they are all over the place, enthusiastic, talking big things. After 1 week, because they don't know the place of discipline, they allow that inspiration to die. The first layer of discipline is to separate yourself from anything that does not facilitate that inspiration. That's the first level of discipline. You separate yourself from anything that diffuses and douses the energy of that inspiration. You receive an inspiration to pray, then leave movies alone, because the two don't go together. You receive an inspiration to become wealthy, then leave lasciviousness alone. You may have to reduce going for the match in Old Trafford, because two of them don't work together. Once in a while you can go there to watch, but you can't be a fan, because a fan claps for the one who makes the impact. And if you want to be the one making the impact, then you have to do something. If you have an inspiration to be a footballer, then you can sleep in Old Trafford, because that one energizes where you are going. But if your inspiration is to become the best doctor so that you can facilitate policy making process in the medical world, then you have to begin to look for the great scholars in the medical world. You must become disciplined only to do the things that support the energy of your inspiration. Many are inspired, but they don't have discipline. If there's no discipline, inspiration was in vain. This is the journey to glory. Many people see God using people and they say they are lucky. Who told you? Ask the person God is using. Let him tell you how many sleepless nights he's had. On Friday, I was in Accra, in Ghana, in a place called Pram Pram. It's like 30 minutes from Accra. I ministered from 12 to 3 p.m. I came up again 12 midnight and ministered till 2 a.m. When I finished, I left straight for the airport to catch a flight of 3:40 a.m. in the morning to get to Lagos. I sat down that morning, the flight was delayed. I eventually left around 4:30. I arrived Lagos. Before I came out, immigration and everything, it was 7 a.m. I had to sit again without sleeping, to wait to catch Virgin Atlantic to be in London. Another 6 hours. And I landed London. I was picked from London. We drove for 3 hours to Manchester. And 30 minutes later, I was up preaching. The power of God is moving. You say, these people are lucky. For more than 28 hours, I didn't sleep. It takes discipline. Somebody will look at you and say, God is helping this young man. If that is the case, then God is a respecter of persons. But the Bible says it's not a respecter of person. Everybody doing something mighty is paying a great price. It can turn the heart of anyone and energize it. There are some of you here, you are hearing and you say, I would have loved to, but I don't know why I can't. Nobody is doing it because he can. He said, I've continued to this day because the Lord has helped me. Everybody doing it is helped. You stand up in the night, you want to pray, you sleep. Wait until fire come on you. Even when you close your eyes, you'll be speaking in tongues. And it's not just about speaking in tongues. You will go to your office, a wisdom will overtake you. And you will start thinking the way men don't think. And that wisdom will exhort you. But the goal is not just to bring you to a place where you receive a fat salary. It's to bring you to a place where you can also participate in making policies. And you will now create policies that create a window for the move of God. Kadosh, Kadosh, you are mighty. You reign, you reign, you reign. The first protocol for emitting the light of God is inspiration. You have to be inspired, and even God knows. Many times when you see people doing mighty things for God, either in full-time ministry or ministry in the sectors or the stratas of human engagement, there was a point where they caught an inspiration. That inspiration is what renavigates you. Everybody will go his own way. He said, all we like sheep have gone our own ways. Every man will choose his own way, because rebellion is ingrained in our souls on account of the fall. What causes a man to have that paradigm shift is an inspiration. When that inspiration hits you, it will reprogram you and you start going in the direction of God. In Galatians chapter 1 verse 24, Paul, who was a murderer, suddenly became an inspiration for the whole body of Christ. Paul said, when they heard of him, he said they glorified God for his namesake. It will take an inspiration for you to turn a new leaf. If that inspiration does not come, you will be so tired, so weak, and appear so helpless in doing that which is right. In fact, you may weep and cry and state how you would have loved to, but not able to, until inspiration comes. Inspiration has within it the power to turn a man around and to go in the direction of God. And many times, God can use men to inspire you. Many times, God can use circumstances to inspire you. The whole idea is to get your attention, that there's something supernatural around you and that can happen through you, that you are not all you look like. There is something that can happen within you that can affect not just your family, but your world. That inspiration will have to come to you at one point or the other. That is where the journey of glory begins from. You find people too many times, their circumstances have made them stereotyped. They think only in a particular way. When you find a man who has been oppressed before, he cannot think liberty. If you read the story of the 12 spies in Genesis 13 and 14, you don't blame them. They were in Egypt all their lives. They saw pains, they saw oppression. They know the power of Pharaoh. And so you come up overnight, you tell these people that they are going to become great, that they will take over a nation. It was impossible for them. They didn't have sufficient inspiration for that. But there were two men among them that had a different spirit. They had a different inspiration. Why these ones were seeing themselves as grasshoppers before the giants, they were now seeing themselves as warriors and giant killers. It's an inspiration that changes your paradigm. It's an inspiration that changes your thinking process. And that change is what opens you up to glory. But you see, inspiration alone is not enough. Hunger is stronger than discipline. If you were to eat food every day by discipline, you will miss your meals many times. Because you can't by discipline eat food for 30 years. But there's an alarm system within you that makes you to eat consistently at a particular time. It's called hunger. And so what God wants to do in order to keep you around the corridor of glory is to inject hunger into your spirit. That's why the psalmist said in Psalm 63 from verse 1 to 2, he said, my soul longeth. I'm not the one doing it. This is not my making. Within me there are forces that draws me to you. He said, thou art my God, early will I seek thee. He said, my soul thirsted for thee, my flesh longeth after thee, as in a dry and thirsty land where no water is. Something beyond the man has taken over him. Every man walking in the glory, there is a force that took over him at some point. That force is what makes that man unable to stop even when he wants to. It eats him up from within. It's a thirst that cannot be quenched. It's a hunger. Encounters come to awaken hunger, because there is a measure you need to journey to in order to come out with something. The Bible spoke concerning Moses. It said Moses stepped into the deep darkness where God was. So even when God hid himself, Moses was still seeking, because he can't go back. He said, we are not of them that drop back onto perdition. There's no future behind. And so something must awaken on your inside to keep you going even when the going gets tough. Encounters come to make you forget. Encounters come to make you forget the former things, so that you can press. You can press until you keep seeing the glory and you see more of it. There are many persons who have not sustained and cultured discipline until they came to encounter. It took Moses 40 years to get to Horeb, but he never changed his mind. For 40 years, the guy kept going there, because Jethro told him that mountain is called the mountain of God. You know, Jethro is one of the sons of Keturah, who was Abraham's concubine. And so he was from a lineage that came from Abraham. And Abraham taught his children the way of the Lord. Even Abraham's servants were not normal people. He said Abraham took 318 trained servants. Abraham's servants are trained. And he said Abraham divided himself among them. That's a mystery. So when they were going to war, there were not 319 people. There were 318 Abrahams, because Abraham Abrahamized them. That's why 318 men defeated 4 kings. It's not possible. They didn't have chariots. They didn't have weapons. There were no records. But God had told Abraham before. He said, in thee shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. So Abraham is bigger than the nations. And so Abraham can be bold. If they can make them Abrahams, one of them can take the nations. That was what the man did. So the sons of Abraham and the servants of Abraham were all taught. That's why Jethro was the one who came to teach Moses how to divide men into ranks. He said, this work will weary you. He said, raise captains of thousands, captains of 100, captains of 50, captains of 10. He knew the ways of God. So he told Moses, there's a spirit on that mountain. Elohim dwells there. It's called the mountain of God. And so many times when Moses is done grazing, he will go to the backside. Well, maybe God can appear today. Maybe God will appear today. A hunger was awoken in him, and he kept going. He kept going until the day the oracle of God stood before him. And from that day, Moses became a city taker. From that day, Moses became an envoy of Zion. From that day, Moses became an ambassador of heaven. And so your discipline is designed to take you to the corridor of hunger. It is when you enter hunger that you become a servant of the glory. That's why you can behold the glory and not be tired. That's why you can stay there and not think about time. Did you not read about Moses? Moses was on top of the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. There was no food, there was no water, but he was too hungry to be satisfied by physical things. And when Moses descended from there, in Exodus 30:29, it said Moses wist not that his face shone. The man had become like a deity. From that day on, everywhere Moses spoke, his voice was like the thunder of God. He had entered something that was beyond the realms of mortals. Discipline is still at the mortal realm, but there's something in you that will only be activated when you cross the great divide. You have to see the God of heaven for yourself. That thing you are doing with all your heart may be error. Paul was going about killing the church, and he was succeeding in it. He was famous in it. He was renowned for it. But he was outside of purpose, because his job was to build the church. When he entered purpose, he called himself a wise master builder. But he was expending energy, destroying the church that he was born to build. He never knew. There are many persons today who are succeeding, but what they call success is not written in the chronicles of heaven. If you have not seen light, you will not know what was said. God is a very organized God. He said, before you were formed in your mother's womb, not before you were born, before you were conceived, he said, I knew you, and I already ordained and sanctified you to walk in a particular order. It will take light for you to find out that thing that was written concerning you. You are not coming to earth to be creative. You are coming to earth to live out a purpose. And that purpose, only within the confines of light can it be isolated. And so I said, a man will remain in darkness no matter how successful, except as he sees light. Did you read the story of the wise fool? He was wealthy. His barns were filled. And he said, now my soul will rest. He doesn't even know the meaning of rest. Do you know how a soul rests? A soul does not rest because it's sleepy. A soul rests because it's in God's presence. You are outside of God's presence. How are you talking about rest? You don't believe in God. What is rest? And God said, you fool, tonight your soul will be demanded of you. And when he was summoned, he discovered he was gathering and filling his barns, but his portion was in Hades. And he went to a place of absolute depravity. And the rich man was asking for a drop of water, because he didn't live life from the plane of light. He was succeeding according to human standard, but he was not succeeding according to God's standard. May you not succeed according to human standard. Men may be clapping, but you are in error until light comes. This is why Jesus was being crucified, but it was God's purpose. Everybody rejected him, but in the eyes of God, he was being enthroned. The applause of men is not divine validation. It will take light to tell you that you are going in the right direction. And I said, if you are in the wrong direction, speed is not an advantage. You can bring the kingdom of God to London. You can bring the kingdom of God to Manchester. You can bring the kingdom of God to any part of the United Kingdom. But what have you seen? What have you beheld? What do you carry? If you don't carry anything, trust me, it will take time. They will swallow you up. After 10 years, you will not recognize yourself, and you may not even know that you are lost. But God has sent us to this territory not to survive. We didn't come here in pursuit of pounds. You may think you came because you were looking for a better life. Your steps were manipulated. You were manipulated. Saul was looking for his father's meeting asses. The Bible said the night before, God told Samuel, the man that you see, anoint him as king. You were manipulated because there's a part you need to bring into the table. There's a quorum needed to bring a witness over the land. That's why you came. Yours may be a voice, yours may be a message, yours may be a career. Whatever it is that brought you, you have a part to play. Glory must be contributed until the intensity of light becomes so heavy that the system bow, and Jesus is enthroned again. That's why you came. You came as an emissary. You came as an envoy of heaven. And it doesn't matter from which part of the world you came from. You might even be born here, but the glory of God must shine over this nation. That's why you came. And this is the reason for this conference, that men who can radiate the light, Men who can radiate the glory, we emerge. That when we meet in a hospital, we bring Christ there. When we meet in a stadium, we bring Christ there. Wherever we meet, we can bring Jesus. Because if Moses did it, if Daniel did it, if Jonah did it, then you can do it. Because it's not by power, it's not by might, it's by the Spirit of the living God. He said, according as it is written, they believed. They believed. He said, we also, having the same spirit of faith, we believe and therefore we speak. If Deborah was able to do it, then gender is not a factor. You don't have to be male or female. You just have to carry God. If you carry God, your age is not a factor. Your sex is not a factor. Your skin color is not a factor. There is something that comes upon you that defies human standard. This morning, somebody will touch something. Adosh, you are mighty on your throne. You reign, you reign, you reign. Kadosh, Kadosh, you are mighty. You reign, you reign, you reign. Kadosh, Kadosh. Anybody and everybody sitting here can become very instrumental in the hands of God of restoring his glory to this land. He doesn't take anything natural. He takes everything supernatural. But there's a protocol. And very quickly, I want to relate this protocol. For those whose heart to be open, something divine will begin to flow out of them. See, you know the way God shows his excellency is in doing it through the people who think they are not qualified, or those who are even against it. Somebody may be watching me here and say, oh, this Christianity is tough, I'm not giving to it. I'm not I love the way they worship, but I'm not part of it. Wait until the hand of God comes on you. The hand. When the hand of God comes on you, your will bend. Saul was a murderer. When the hand of God came on him, he became an apostle. A point came, the Bible said, Paul and Barnabas. He said they are men that hazarded their lives. They were willing to take risk for what they once fought. Something they stood against, an encounter broke him. And for all ages, the name of Paul is golden. For all eternity, he will be remembered as one of the brightest warriors of Christ. But he was once a murderer and a rebellious person. I don't care where you are. I don't care what you do. I know the power of God. It can uproot the most hardened of us. There will be hunger. You can't just be another doctor. You can't just be another lawyer. You can't just be another businessman. The nation is looking for much more than doctors. The nation is looking for much more than lawyers. If they tell you how many doctors and lawyers have graduated from Oxford alone, Oxford alone, you will know that England needs more than doctors. If they tell you how many merchants have done business in this land in millions of pounds, you will know that the nation requires more than a merchant. And so you will heighten your vision a bit more, because your vision may just be to graduate. Even the first class graduates alone, if they give you their chronicles, you will know that the territory requires much more than that. Now that's a very good inspiration. That's a very good motivation. Keep it. But over and above it, think beyond certificate, because destiny is bigger than paper. There's something that must come upon you, because Christ is in you. And he said the reason Christ came into you is for a hope. He said that hope is glory. That glory can emit through you. There's a glory that must come out of you. But for that glory to happen, you must journey from inspiration through discipline to hunger. A hunger that overwhelms you, and you tell yourself, I will not stop until something supernatural comes on me. Thank God for my certificate. Thank God for my training. Thank God for my business. But I will not stop here. I will not stop here. That's what Paul caught. And he said, according as it is written. He said, they believe and have spoken. We having the same spirit of faith, we believe and therefore we speak. Romans 15 verse 4, the Bible said, the things that were written aforetime, it said they were written for our learning, so that we through patience and comfort of the scripture might have hope. And so you are angry, and you tell yourself, Paul too was a lawyer, but there was something about Paul's life that made many generations after him not to forget him. You tell yourself, Daniel, Nehemiah, they were politicians, but there was something about them that was deeper than politics. They were able to restore the glory of God over nations. You tell yourself, Joseph too was a man in government, but there was something more about him. How could he preserve the heritage of God? Not only over Egypt, but the whole world came to Egypt because of Joseph. What did they carry? There was a glory on their lives. And you will tell yourself, I will not be one of the many doctors. I will not be one of the many lawyers. There has to be a glory on my life. If that kind of hunger is not awakened in your spirit, then it means you've not had encounters. It means you've not had encounters. Encounters come to awaken you to the fullness of your reality. Refuse to be mundane. Thank God for the gymming. It's good for health. But the life is bigger than having a broad chest. Thank God for the foundation and mascara. Life is bigger than having a beautiful face. Spirits don't look at the size of your chest. They look at the weight of glory you carry. Spirits don't look at your physical beauty. They look at the authority with which you can command. And so when God created us, he created us to reign in the spirit. And it will take hunger to get there. When you begin to service that hunger, a point comes when you enter into participation. They will now allow you to begin to interact, not just with God, but with the beings that live there. Because it's the source of all things. And it's a law in the spirit that what you see, you become. If you see Facebook, you become Facebook. If you see TikTok, you become TikTok. Whether you like it or not, it's a law. The things you see, you become. Our world is littered with whoredom today because of the things we see. People heap pornography in their movies, in their phones, explore pornographic site, and they are wondering why they can't live holy. You become what you see. You can't change it. It's gigo. You garbage in, you garbage out. You are who you see. You are what you see. You are what you hear. And so if you want to manifest God, see God. He said, behold, what manner of love the Father has bestowed upon us, that we should be called the sons of God. He said, it does not yet appear what we shall be like. He said, but when we shall see him, we shall be like him. You can't see God and be otherwise. And God cannot appear in that your circumstance and you still fail. And so the reason you are failing is because God is not there. And if God is there, you cannot but excel. But what will bring the fullness of God there is your preoccupation in beholding him. Balaam was called to curse Israel. And he had a reputation. Whoever he curses is cursed. Whoever he blesses is blessed. When he showed up, he tried many times, he couldn't. And he began to testify. He said, there is no enchantment against Israel. There's no divination against Jacob. Not because Israel is praying and fasting. He said, because the voice of the king is in their midst. When God is with you, you can't fail. You can't be cursed. You can't diminish, because God is an excelling glory. But what will make God take over your space is as we all, with unveiled faces, beholding us in the glass, the image of the Lord. You don't behold, you can't find God. Many destinies are wasted because there is no God element there. When you are born again, what is left is for you to meet God. But it will take beholding for that to happen. How do you behold him? You behold him through his word. He said, from the days of thy youth, he said, thou hast known the holy scriptures, which is able to make thee wise unto salvation. You find people going into marriage and they are watching Kardashian. You want to bring an act to reality. Are you not a joker? They don't know what the word says. And so that marriage, anything can happen because they've not secured that marriage. They've not built the boundaries for that marriage. Somebody is going for an interview and is hoping on luck. You know what that means? There are over 7.73 billion people in the world. If people were to live by luck, when will be your turn? Do you know how many persons coming for that interview hoping they will be lucky? If they group all of you who are trusting on luck, you will be more than the position. And so instead of going and trusting in luck, behold and come with favor. And then you will see a power. Favor does not just open your heaven. Favor commands the allegiance of men. When Esther was to go into the king, she needed to buy favor, because she knows it takes so much to change the laws of a land. You are in the United Kingdom. Do you know the powers that are here? This is one of the oldest civilizations in the world. One of the oldest. They've had governments upon governments, policies upon policies. You can't just throw into this ancient civilization and hope to create change. The system will vomit you. Do you know how ancient it is? When you are flying into this country, even from the arrangement of the building, you will know that this is not a system to take for granted. Every building is in line. The alignment is as though they use the ruler to arrange. Is it that order? That order you think you can just come and discomfit? Buildings are in so much order, and you stroll in, you say, we will take this land. Which land? In 6 months you will sink. That's why many pastors came here from Africa. In 3 months they have tattoos all over themselves. They now discover that it's better to sell on Sunday morning, so they shut church down and became traders. They didn't know that there's an ancient spirit that dwells here, and you need to come with weights of glory to be able to survive first before you even take over.